What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have something new from Geelang, and this is one of the most exciting releases from this company so far this year. I've been waiting to get this box in the mail for weeks, maybe months now. This is great. It's finally here. So we're gonna do this review honestly, as always on the channel. I'm going to talk about the quad, stuff that comes along with it. First out of the box, I was impressed with the most simplest accessory that they include with it. It is a USB cable, it's a data cable. It has a longer post on it, the Android connection here for beta flight, because you have an F411 flight controller on this quad. And it comes with an adapter. This little adapter right here is for USB-C. So this is what you're going to use to set up your CADX Vista, update the firmware, and activate it with DJI. So you have to activate the CADX Vista on board before you start flying it with your DJI goggles. Now I have to say right off the bat that this little quad, with the tune that's on here, it's one of the best flying little HD micros that I've flown this year. The tune is really solid. I had the best results using the Emax Avant props that come with it. Those little 2.5 inch props are like, I've talked about those before, they're like skateboard wheels. They're super tough, super durable. For beginners, they're great props. And they fly fantastic with the tune on the Titan. One thing that I thought was also cool is that inside the box you also get some really durable prop guards. They are thicker than the GEP RC Rocket prop guards. They have a nice, really nice, feels like ABS or maybe polypropylene, but it is really thick. It has their logo on the outside, which is cool. Make sure you don't mix up the bolts and put the longer screws back in if you take the prop guards off. But it does fly really good with the prop guards on, so that is a huge plus. You can still freestyle this little quad with these prop guards because they're not super deep ducts. They're just enough to cover the outside of the prop. And it's going to be important, and in this flight test we're going to talk about durability factor with this frame. It is a unibody, looks like about a 3mm unibody frame with, we have TPU mount in the back for the CADX antenna. We have a little TPU sort of front mount here. A screw goes into the frame, and 3 bolts release this top plate, which is really nice as well. So you can get to this CADX Vista. I had to replace mine because I had a hardcore crash right off the bat on the first flight, and I actually hit a tractor with this quad. So yeah, so extreme durability test. And then I did another crash in this flight test and I broke the arm on the frame. So there's the results of my 4S850. But I have to say it was my fault, because what happened was I was flying, I didn't have the bolts on top of the props. I just kind of set the props on the quad, and I actually didn't have the bolts with me at the time, so I just put a little dab of hot glue on each one, hoping they would stay on. At the high end of the throttle coming down the runway, I pitched a prop, and this thing went in with a 4S850 on the bottom, which is way heavier than the whole entire weight of the quad. So when it went down, the weight of that battery and no prop guard on there, if the prop guards had been on there, it would have protected the frame and it would have just bounced and it wouldn't have broken the arm. So guys that are worried about durability, make sure you put the prop guards on before you do your first flight, especially if you are a beginner or you are using a 4S850 battery. Very important with this quad. But it was a shame because it was flying so well, and after I put different props on there, I got a little more vibes. I lost one of the Avant props in that crash, so after that, or after I broke it, it was the day was done. But before that, I had an issue with losing one of the props, so I had more vibes in the video. But yeah, this is a bummer, but I'm gonna get a new unibody frame, and I'm gonna transfer all of this gear onto a new unibody frame. So maybe on version 2, they can make this a little bit thicker on the bottom plate, maybe going to somewhere around, say, maybe even a 4mm bottom plate would be super nice for this little quad. Just thickening this up a little more would help a lot. So On board, we have the Caddx Vista, that is DJI Digital. We have 20 amp ESCs, we have up to 700 milliwatt on here as well, and plenty of camera tilt. We also have a lens protector, which I hit that tractor head on. It's basically a steel beam that I hit full speed because I went full send through this tractor gap and didn't make it, but the camera was protected by this TPU front. You can see it sticking out the front right there. So this did its job. I had a couple side pieces on the black frame crack, but I was still able to fly it after that. So, and then I crashed it again and broke it even further, and it was just all crunched up. So one thing to think about there with this top plate, if you have some really hardcore crashes, you will break this top frame. So yeah, so far put your prop guards on and make sure that you stay away from super hard objects like I did. But that's the point of this channel. I go full send all the time, you guys, and I fly fast, and it's all or nothing a lot of times when I'm going for gaps. And you guys have seen my extreme durability tests on the channel before, and I don't hide them from you guys. So with that said, let's just go ahead out to the field now, and let me show you some flight demos with it. I'll show you my fantastic flight with it, and then I'll show you the not so fantastic flights. So here we go. After that, we'll come back in and we'll talk about my final thoughts about this Geelang Titan 120X. And the good news is, guys, that it is worth buying. It really is. The tune on here is fantastic, and I can't wait to get a new frame and put this gear on there and start over, because it really does fly great, and breaking it was my fault, so I accept that. Let's go ahead and do the flight test now. Here we go. Okay, my friends, here we go. We're gonna do the flight test, and this is my first flight. And right away I was impressed with the smooth tune on here. It felt great. It felt lightweight, but also on the 4S battery, it felt like it had plenty of power in the 1204 motors. These are my favorite motors right now on micro brushless. 2.5-inch props, Havon. The Emax micro props are really the choice prop on here. I tested a variety of different props. We tested out the HQ 65mm props. Those didn't quite do as well as the Emax Havons for some strange reason. But you can see the tune here. This is one of the best tunes on a Caddx DJI setup that I've flown this year, because up high is where you can really see this jello, and this is actually kind of amazing that it's this smooth for such a small quad. And this is flying it without the prop guards right now. So maybe it's a little smoother without the prop guards, but you guys can test that out for yourself. If you're worried about durability factor, put those prop guards on there. If you want to freestyle it, you'll have a little better flying characteristic without the prop guards. But again, I'm really impressed with how smooth this quad flies. It is just really beautiful up in the air. And now I'm in Acro Mode. I was flying stability there for you guys, just to show you how it's going to fly in stability. Now we're flying with no stabilization and still getting that really smooth track. The lines feel really nice. The greatest thing about DJI too, if you haven't flown DJI yet, is how well you can see. You can just do so much with DJI Digital. You're getting closer to a lot of things and take a lot of small gaps that you normally wouldn't take. You just really can see everything with DJI Digital. And coming under these flight stands with some speed here and back around. Just gonna try one small gap here and get out of there. But feels really controlled, really responsive on the sticks, and it doesn't feel overly loose, which is kind of nice. The last review that I did for the Stick 4 felt a little bit loose, but I was really feeling the nice control on this quad, and even coming in for a landing in the back of the hatchback there. Now the boost, also the punch out's great. It feels like a 10:1 power ratio as well on here. Really nice. I'm just playing around with the sticks here, nothing super professional looking there, but just wanted to see if I could freak out the flight controller and maybe make it trip up a little bit. But here I tried to go through the tractor and bam, right into the metal post. After crash report, durability test, it looks like I broke the front part of the frame right here, but good news is that I have another frame in the box. It comes with an extra canopy, so that's cool. It did not break the unibody bottom plate, which is awesome. Full-on frontal crash. I don't see any marks there. It looks like the TPU mount in the front protected the camera, so didn't even break a prop either. Bent the battery a little bit, looks good enough to fly again, so. All right guys, welcome back from the flight test. So that was a pretty crazy flight test. I haven't had one of so many crashes recently and so much like carnage coming back from a flight test. The good thing is that when this frame broke, it didn't sever my motor cable or pierce any of the wire covering leading to the motor. That's very important for being able to transfer this gear over to another frame. One thing that I want to note though is that, you know, the crashes were my fault because I didn't have the bolts on the props, and any 12 series motor has a lot of torque. It will throw that prop off super quick. I have flown 1106 and 1103 motors. Typically 1103 motors, I will just jam the prop on there without bolts and it's fine. 2 to 3S battery, it'll handle that without throwing the prop off. But if you run 4S and 12 series motors, it will pitch the prop right off there after about half throttle. So one thing to think about. Let me make that mistake for you. But this is the result of that. I crashed on the runway, and the runway out at the field is actually is sort of this hard canvas over top of grass, and it's been there for years. So it's kind of like concrete. So it was kind of like a concrete type of crash, full send, 4S A50, and it broke the frame. So use your prop guards if you're flying around super hard surfaces like concrete. I think that the performance of it though, let's talk about the performance, is really nice. The sucky thing about this is that I was enjoying flying this. The first day that I got it, it was such an enjoyable experience. Like, I came up off the ground and I was surprised at how smooth this quad actually is. It was really smooth right off the first takeoff, no vibes in the video. And as you can see here in this video, I'll put some video up on the screen for you guys to see right now. This is where you see where a quad can produce jello vibes in the video, and this is one of the smoothest recordings from my DJI goggles that I've gotten from any DJI quad this year. So, you know, take the crash with a grain of salt. That the crash was my fault, and you know, put your prop bolts on there, you'll be fine. But it flies fantastic, so it's definitely 2 thumbs up for the performance and the tune of this quad, because you can do multiple things with this quad. You can do cinema, you can put a little Insta360 Go on there, or you can do some pretty good freestyle with a 4S battery. New guys, I would suggest starting out on a 3S 650 milliamp, and my favorite battery on this quad was the 4S 650 milliamp. You're still gonna get over 4 minutes flight time with that battery, and it will freestyle all day with a 650. That's the sort of power to weight ratio that I like. 850, you start to feel it a little bit, and it adds a little bit extra weight to the quad. So you're gonna need more high-end throttle to get out of those big maneuvers. So I suggest running the 650. That's gonna be the battery of choice. But this quad has high marks for me. The results here from my, you know, self-imposed durability test, this is what happened to mine. Take that with a grain of salt, because again, it was my fault. So yeah, no props in view, great tune, great components on here. The F4 flight controller that comes from Geelang is an all-in-one with flight controller and ESCs all-in-one. It performed great, and the motors are also some of my favorites on micro brushless right now. The 12 series motors, fantastic. And these were 4,500 kV, so they're not super high, and they'll give you a little longer flight time with good medium range performance. So a very, very interesting quad, and I think the design is just really cool too. I love like looking at this quad from the side, the front, and all the angles are really cool. Geelang kind of goes the extra mile to put in some extra design quality into their products, which is neat. They kind of stand out from the pack. They look different than all the other companies' quads out there. It's not a copy of anything out there. So good job to the Geelang team for producing the 120X. And if I get another frame soon, I'll fly it again for you guys, and I'll bring it back on the channel again once I get it rebuilt for you. We'll do a follow-up review on that one coming up sometime later this month or sometime this summer, because this is a fantastic quad. So I'm gonna fix mine and keep flying it. Thanks again for watching, guys. You can check out the links down below, and support me on Patreon if you want to. Be careful, keep flying, happy FPV everybody, and stay safe. I'll see you on the next one.